This is the story Hollywood never wanted you to hear. Before the fame, before the global spotlight, before millions around the world roared with him in 300, Gerard Butler thought the industry was a brotherhood, a place where respect was earned, friendships were real, and loyalty mattered. He was wrong. Because the moment Gerard Butler became a worldwide icon, the moment his voice echoed across theaters with "This is Sparta," 5 actors, people he admired, trusted, even looked up to, turned their backs on him, not privately, not quietly, but publicly, brutally, and in ways that carved scars he still carries. These weren't random co-stars, these were powerful names, award winners, Hollywood favorites, and each one left a wound. One stole his role right out from under him. One took all the glory from the movie he bled for. One froze him out completely. One praised him on set, then destroyed him in public. And one derailed an entire film with a performance so bizarre, Butler felt humiliated on his own set. And when you hear the names, you will not believe who's on that list. Hollywood is full of secrets, but this one might be the darkest yet. Are you sure you're ready? Because the first name is the one that cut him deeper than all the rest. Jamie Foxx. Yes, that Jamie Foxx. The biggest shock on Gerard Butler's private list of actors he vowed never to work with again. What happened between them wasn't a disagreement. It wasn't a creative clash. It was a career-altering blow delivered in a single sentence that flipped an entire movie upside down. It all began with law-abiding citizen. Butler wasn't just the leading man, he was also a producer. He had spent months shaping Clyde Shelton into a morally twisted, emotionally tormented character. He worked with writers, he built the arc, he crafted the soul of the role. It was meant to be his, everything was set, until Jamie Foxx walked into the first meeting. Foxx read the script in silence. He put it down, looked directly at the executives in the room, and said the 7 words that froze everyone in place. "I'm not playing Clyde, I'll take Nick." With that one sentence, calm, confident, and backed by the weight of an Oscar, the studio instantly shifted. No negotiation, no discussion, no respect for the man who had been building the film from day one. Within minutes, Butler was told he should switch roles. Even though it was still technically his movie, he later admitted behind closed doors, "Suddenly, it didn't feel like mine anymore." That one line sounds polite, but the truth behind it is sharp enough to cut glass. He felt pushed aside, overpowered, diminished in the project he had built from the ground up. And once filming began, the tension only intensified. Jamie Foxx dominated every interview, every press opportunity, every spotlight moment. What should have been a partnership slowly turned into a duel. Scenes shifted, focus shifted, public perception shifted. When the film premiered, critics praised Foxx by name, while Butler was reduced to the villain, the man lurking in the shadow of his own creation. Resentment didn't grow overnight. It grew slowly, scene by scene, interview by interview. By the end of production, the damage was irreparable. They haven't worked together since. And when their names come up in industry circles, insiders say the tone instantly turns cold. This wasn't a disagreement. This was a wound. Some rivalries explode loudly. This one burned in silence, slow, cold, and far more painful. People love to believe that 300 was a perfect collaboration. Zack Snyder, the visionary director. Gerard Butler, the unstoppable warrior king. But behind the iconic battle cries, Behind the shredded muscles and cinematic glory, something darker was happening, something fans never saw. During production, Snyder pushed the cast beyond their limits. Butler transformed his life for that role, training until his hands cracked open, sleeping in pain, living like a Spartan because Snyder demanded nothing less than absolute commitment. But the real fracture didn't happen on set. It happened after the movie exploded. In 2006, Snyder was crowned a genius, the man who reinvented action cinema. Butler, on the other hand, was labeled the guy who got lucky. For a man who nearly destroyed his body for that performance, the narrative was unbearable. He confided to a friend in private, "I nearly killed myself for that role. People talk like I just showed up and shouted a line." That bitterness didn't fade. It deepened as Snyder leaped to even bigger franchises. Watchmen, Man of Steel, the entire DC universe, while Butler struggled with roles that never again reached the same height. To him, it felt like Snyder walked away with the glory, leaving him behind in the shadow of a film he had sacrificed everything for. But the moment that truly broke him came on set, long before the world knew anything was wrong. A critical stunt rig malfunctioned during a major fight sequence. Producers whispered that maybe Butler should be replaced with a stunt double to save time, to keep schedule, to reduce risk. Butler waited for Snyder to step in, to defend him, to fight for the man who had fought so hard for Leonidas. Snyder said nothing. It was Butler's stunt double, not the director, who told him quietly, "This is your moment. Don't let them take it." Trust died that day. Outwardly, Butler and Snyder remained polite, even friendly in interviews, but insiders say that if you listen closely, you can hear something underneath the words, a quiet resentment that never fully healed. They created a masterpiece together, but they walked away from it worlds apart. And for Butler, 300 didn't just change his career, it changed the way he viewed loyalty forever. Some grudges come from conflict, others come from betrayal, but this one came from silence, sharp, cold, impossible to melt. When Gerard Butler stepped onto the set of Lara Croft, The Cradle of Life in 2003, he expected connection. He expected camaraderie. He expected the same fiery chemistry off-screen that their characters shared on-screen. Instead, he walked into a winter storm named Angelina Jolie. Back then, Jolie wasn't just a star. She was Hollywood royalty. Every crew member moved around her like she carried an invisible gravitational pull. Every producer treated her like the center of the universe. Butler hoped they'd click. He hoped they'd laugh between takes, maybe trade stories, maybe even build a friendship. He got nothing. When the cameras stopped rolling, Jolie shut down. Emotionally, physically, professionally, no small talk, no warmth, sometimes not even eye contact. One crew member later confessed privately she treated him like he was temporary, like he would vanish the moment cut was called. For Butler, that was devastating. He's a connection-based actor, someone who thrives on energy, presence, human chemistry. The more Jolie closed herself off, the more tension built in the space between them. He felt small, dismissed, like he didn't belong beside someone the industry treated like a queen. Years later, trying to mask the hurt, Butler made a lighthearted joke in an interview. "I had to bring my acting down to match her style." He said it with a grin, but the world didn't take it as a joke. Jolie fans attacked him. Studios distanced themselves. Headlines painted him as the guy who took a cheap shot at an Oscar winner. But the truth behind that joke was much deeper. It was the only safe way he knew to express how isolated, irrelevant, and insignificant he felt next to her. A superstar who never once let him in. On screen, they were fire. Off screen, they were ice. And that ice never thawed. They've never worked together again, never exchanged warm words, never softened toward each other in interviews. Insiders say that even today, Butler tenses up when he hears her name. Some wounds don't make noise, some wounds freeze over. Those are the ones that last the longest. Some wounds happen during filming, but the one that hurt Gerard Butler the most came after the cameras stopped rolling. Katherine Heigl is the only person on Butler's private list who didn't clash with him on set, didn't shut him out, didn't steal his spotlight. In fact, during the filming of The Ugly Truth in 2008, everything seemed perfect. Butler genuinely admired her. He found her sharp, funny, incredibly talented, even intimidating in a way he secretly liked. He once admitted, half joking, half confessing, "I was a little in love with her during filming." Their chemistry wasn't just written into the script. It was alive between the takes. She challenged him. She pushed scenes tighter. She made him play smarter, faster, better. Her structured precision clashed beautifully with his unpredictable improvisational style. The exact kind of friction that creates movie magic. For Butler, The Ugly Truth wasn't just another rom-com. It was his breakthrough in a genre Hollywood never thought he could carry. Everything was so smooth until the movie premiered. Then, without warning, Heigl threw the first blow, not privately, not gently, but publicly. She criticized the film in interviews, called it too raunchy, said the humor was crude, implied it wasn't the kind of story Hollywood needed. Headlines exploded. Reporters devoured every soundbite. And suddenly, the narrative became, Katherine Heigl is embarrassed by The Ugly Truth. But this wasn't just any project. This was his project, his leap into a new genre, his shot to prove he could do more than action roles. One insider later revealed the moment Butler found out. A journalist blindsided him during an interview. "How do you feel about Katherine criticizing the movie?" He went silent because he had no idea until that moment. Imagine admiring someone, learning from them, respecting them, only to find out they publicly disowned the very thing you created together. For Butler, it felt like a punch to the gut. After that, their friendship cracked. They remained polite in public, two professionals smiling for the cameras, but never close, never warm, never again the energetic duo they once were on set. It wasn't a fight, it wasn't a disagreement, it was something far worse. A betrayal delivered when he least expected it, after he thought he was safe. The final name on Gerard Butler's list is the one that surprises people the most, because this grudge has nothing to do with fame, ego, romance, or rivalry. This one is artistic. This one is about trust. And this one cut deeper than critics ever understood. When Butler signed on to Gamer, he expected intensity. He expected grit. He expected a grounded, brutal world where every moment felt like life or death. Michael C. Hall walked onto the same set, expecting something completely different. From the very first week, Butler sensed something off. He arrived with his usual discipline, physically prepared, emotionally buried inside the tortured character he was playing. He treated the role like combat, like survival. But Hall approached Keene Castle with a swagger that felt like it belonged in a different universe. He was theatrical, flamboyant, smirking through scenes as if performing for an invisible Broadway crowd. One crew member later joked, Gerard thought he was making a war film. Michael thought he was making a musical. Butler didn't laugh, not once. The breaking point came during the now infamous dance sequence, a bizarre Sinatra-style musical number unfolding in the middle of what should have been a gritty dystopian showdown. Butler walked into the scene expecting menace, a deadly confrontation that would define the emotional weight of the story. But what unfolded felt like a parody. Later in private, Butler admitted, "It pulled the soul out of the scene. I didn't know what movie we were making anymore." That wasn't frustration, that was humiliation. When Gamer was released, the criticism struck exactly where Butler feared it would. Reviewers attacked the film's inconsistent tone. Some critics praised Hall as the only interesting performance, which only made the situation worse. Others said the chaotic mixture of acting styles dragged the whole movie down. And who did audiences blame? Not the wild card performance, not the tonal confusion. They blamed the leading man. That's when the disappointment turned into something heavier. A belief that Hall's theatrical approach sabotaged the emotional core of the film Butler had worked so hard to ground. After that movie, they never worked together again, never hinted at it, never tried. For Butler, this wasn't about ego. It was about watching a film he believed in drift off course, one scene at a time, until he no longer recognized the story he thought they were telling. And that is a wound no actor forgets. Now that the curtain has finally been pulled back, one thing becomes painfully clear. These weren't small disagreements. They weren't misunderstandings. They were deep, personal wounds etched into Gerard Butler's career, each one coming from someone he once respected, trusted, or admired. Jamie Foxx, the powerhouse who overturned an entire movie with one sentence, leaving Butler pushed aside in a project he built from the ground up. Zack Snyder, the director whose cinematic triumph overshadowed Butler's sacrifice, turning shared success into a quiet, lingering resentment. Angelina Jolie, the superstar who froze him out completely, leaving him feeling invisible beside Hollywood royalty. Katherine Heigl, the co-star who praised him during filming, then publicly disowned the movie that meant so much to him. Michael C. Hall, the wild card performance that derailed a film's emotional core and left Butler carrying the blame. 5 names, 5 stories, 5 shadows that trailed him long after the camera stopped rolling. Hollywood loves its heroes. It loves its villains. But it almost never talks about the people caught somewhere in between. The ones who endure the subtle betrayals, the silent resentments, the unexpected blows that shape a career more than any blockbuster ever could. For Gerard Butler, this list isn't about holding grudges. It's about the cost of surviving an industry where loyalty is rare, power shifts fast, and even the people closest to you can become the ones who hurt you the most. So now, the question passes to you. Which of these 5 names shocked you the most? And do you believe Gerard Butler was right to walk away from them forever? If you've made it this far, hit the like button, because the stories like these aren't just Hollywood gossip. They're the truths hidden behind the spotlight. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories, more hidden conflicts, and more secrets from the Hollywood you never get to see.